Funding for local broadcast of Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. IMS Capital Management and the IMS family of no-load mutual funds celebrating 17 years of serving Northwest investors. IMS Capital Management.
A stomach-churning roller coaster ride for investors today. At one point, the Dow was down more than 170 points. When the smoke cleared, the blue chips had closed on the upside. Still, Wall Street's not alone in seeing volatile falling stock markets these days.
This man wants to be the vice chairman of the Federal Reserve, so you probably want to hear what his views are on inflation. A Senate committee heard them today, but not all the lawmakers agreed with what Donald Cohn had to say.
Candy is dandy, but paying for it is getting dicey. Rising costs for sugar and energy are squeezing America's candy manufacturers and now America's consumers. We'll explain.
Then the plague of Parkinson's. Our Bill of Health report tonight looks at the alarming rise of the disease among the nation's baby boomers and how healthcare providers are gearing up to cope with it.
I'm Paul Kangas.
And I'm Susie Garup. This is Nightly Business Report for Thursday, June 8th.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by
Franklin Templeton Investments, providing a unique perspective through the specialized investment expertise of Franklin Templeton Mutual Series and Fiduciary Trust. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective.
I'm gonna miss you guys.
Congratulations.
Good luck, Gary. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye, Care Bear.
Leaving one job for another?
Hey, Gary.
Don't forget to take your nest egg. Objective financial advice can help you roll over your retirement money. A.G. Edwards, fully invested in our clients.
additional funding provided by the National Association of Realtors. This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Wall Street snapped its four-day losing streak as blue chip stocks eked out a gain. The Dow rose almost 8 points, reversing a triple-digit loss earlier in the day. But the Nasdaq closed down 6. The turnaround in the Dow came on a day of massive selling in stock markets around the world. Emerging markets have led international declines in the past month as investors have become concerned about slowing global economic growth. Erica Miller reports.
U.S. investors are not alone in worrying about higher interest rates. Many European stock markets tumbled today after the European Central Bank raised a benchmark interest rate. India and South Korea also hiked rates, adding to the selling pressure globally. Experts say the widespread dumping of equities reflects concern that higher rates will slow economic growth, hurting corporate profits.
The global markets have enjoyed unusual liquidity and very low interest rates for some time. So the concern is that even if inflation is relatively muted, if it's accelerating, this is going to cause central banks to tighten more than the market's currently expecting.
From the start of the year through early May, most overseas benchmarks were soundly beating U.S. stocks. But in the past few weeks, foreign stocks have gotten clobbered, especially emerging markets, as investors bail out of riskier assets. As a result, the major stock market benchmarks in the United Kingdom and Germany are now basically flat for the year. Japan is underwater, although Hong Kong is positive. Emerging markets like Brazil, India, and Mexico are clinging to gains. Korea is down more than 7%. Investors may wonder, is now a good buying opportunity for foreign stocks?
We have been advising clients, number one, this is not an opportunity to reallocate money into the equity markets. We think there's going to be a better buying opportunity on the horizon.
But others say there may be some attractive foreign investments for people with very strong stomachs and multi-year time horizons.
There are some good opportunities. We've seen some pretty dramatic sell-offs in Korea, in Brazil, and these are markets with good long-term growth prospects. Their valuations are cheap.
Experts make it clear foreign markets are not good safe havens for investors worried about volatility in the U.S. Some strategists say bad days in the U.S. market could be 2 or 3 times worse abroad. Erica Miller, Nightly Business Report, New York.
A new outlook on inflation and the economy today from the White House. The Bush administration is now predicting inflation, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, will rise by 3% this year. That's up from 2.4% in the last prediction in December. Meanwhile, a key economic player in Washington is also keeping tabs on inflation. Federal Reserve Governor Donald Cohn appeared before the Senate Banking Committee today in confirmation hearings to become the Fed's new vice chairman. As Stephanie Du reports, the Fed leadership is sending a consistent message.
Longtime Fed member Donald Cohn today reinforced the hawkish stance Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke took on Monday.
At this stage, we have to acknowledge that the economy, yes, the economy is slowing down, and that will help to damp inflation pressures. But at the same time, there are some danger signs out there that we need to be quite attentive to.
That view didn't sit well with at least one senator because inflation reports lag the economy. He's concerned the Fed will raise rates too high.
I'm afraid the Fed is going to overshoot this year, just as they did the last time. Overshooting will have a devastating impact on this economy, and maybe worse than before because of the artificially inflated housing prices this time around.
But the Fed still seems to be more concerned about keeping rates too low.
I have found the recent inflation data somewhat troubling. As Senator Bunning noted, they are backward-looking. That's about price increases in the last few months. But they were higher than I had anticipated, and that raises a warning flag.
Cohn says the sharp sell-off on Wall Street is partly a reaction to high energy prices, but also the expectation of inflation. Analysts say Fed policymakers may want to take a break from raising rates, but with the markets putting the odds at 80% that the Fed will tighten when it meets at the end of the month, that's getting harder to do.
I don't think that Bernanke intended to have the odds go to 80% as a result of his speech on Monday, but the effect matters even if it wasn't the intent. With such high expectations, it'll be hard for Bernanke and the rest of the Fed not to hike. I don't think Bernanke can afford another blow to his credibility.
Still, many things could influence the odds of a Fed rate hike, including next week's Consumer Price Index, retail sales report, or a Fed member's comments. Stephanie Du, Nightly Business Report, Washington. Crude oil futures traded below $70 a barrel in New York today after news that a bombing raid by U.S. fighter jets killed al-Qaeda's leader in Iraq. Analysts say the death of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi will not be the end of threats to oil exports in Iraq, but they say it could mean Iraqi security will improve and help boost crude production to higher levels there. In New York trading, light sweet crude for July delivery closed down 47 cents to $70.35.
Wall Street headed lower for the fifth straight session this morning on interest rate worries underscored by that rate hike in Europe and weak global markets. As potential buyers hugged the sidelines, the Dow had tumbled 173 points by noontime, with the Nasdaq off 51 points. That steep sell-off and the weak oil futures triggered enough buying this afternoon to help the market recover nicely and close narrowly mixed. Dow Industrial Average actually ended with a gain of 7.92 at 10,938.82. The Nasdaq Composite closed off just 6.5 points at 2145.32. Standard & Poor's 500 was up 1.75 at 1257.93. Over in the bond market, the 10-year note rose 7/32 to 101, putting the yield at exactly 5%.
Soaring commodity prices have been one contributor to fears of inflation. Take, for example, the candy industry. It's facing higher sugar and energy costs, and as a result, candy prices are rising. As Diane Esterbrook reports, to keep sales up, the industry is coming up with new products to cater to a consumer's sweet tooth.
You can actually eat your candy. It tastes like a lollipop and wild cherry, but it's in a gel form.
Sweet Tart Squeeze and 90-calorie Crunch Sticks are the latest brainstorms at Nestle. At the All Candy Expo in Chicago this week, candy companies from around the world are introducing dark chocolate, new fruit flavors, and innovative packaging in an effort to muscle more products onto store shelves. Cadbury Adams, known for its Dentyne and Trident brands, is rolling out a new take on its popular chewing gums.
This product, Stride, is the same format as gums we've sold in the past, but has, through new technology, gotten a much softer, longer-lasting texture and flavor.
While most candy companies are upbeat about their industry, some admit rising commodity prices are leaving a sour taste in their mouths. Sugar and energy costs have both doubled in the past year, making it more expensive to manufacture, package, and transport products.
Consequently, the entire candy category is in motion right now to move to different price points. What used to be a dime is going to become a quarter. Maybe it'll grow in size a little bit, but it will more than double in price.
Still, analysts don't think consumers will lose their taste for candy, even if prices spike higher. That's because over the past few years, the candy industry has been growing at twice the rate of the overall food industry. Industry watchers say candy companies have kept consumers coming back for more with innovative products. Master Foods USA is a good example. It recently fully rolled out dark chocolate M&Ms after selling the product on a limited basis last summer.
We do look at limited editions as an exciting short-term solution to bring excitement to the category, like M&M's Dark was in 2005, or like Snickers Dark will be in November of 2006.
Candy makers are also expanding product offerings through acquisition. The purchase of the Joseph Schmidt and Scharfenberger brands puts the Hershey Company in the premium chocolate business. But despite the success in checkout lines, analysts say candy companies should not take customers for granted.
There does come a point where the consumer may look at what he or she sees at the front of the store as not necessarily that cheap, because maybe the dollar price point might be a hurdle. So these companies do have to watch that.
Still, these companies are confident candy will always remain a sweet treat, affordable even in the worst economic times. Diane Estabrook, Nightly Business Report, Chicago.
The Senate today rejected a Republican-sponsored bill to permanently repeal the estate tax. The vote was 57-41 in favor, just shy of the 60 votes needed to make the repeal permanent. The estate tax is now set to disappear in 2010 as part of President Bush's first tax cut, but it reappears a year later. Supporters want to permanently abolish taxes on inherited estates, saying those taxes rob family farms and small business owners. Opponents argue repealing the estate tax would cost the Treasury $369 billion over the next decade.
U.S. labor groups are asking the Bush administration to pressure China to stop labor abuses, especially when it comes to child workers. The AFL-CIO filed a petition today with the U.S. Trade Representative asking for a probe into whether China's labor rights violations comprise an unfair trade practice. The labor group claims millions of child workers are forced laborers, toil in difficult and dangerous conditions in China at extremely low wages. The trade rep has 45 days or until late July to decide whether to start an investigation. A similar request by the same group was rejected 2 years ago when the administration said it would work with China to improve labor conditions there. A bitter pill for Pfizer. The drug giant is being sued over its blockbuster anti-cholesterol drug, Lipitor. The two lawsuits filed in New York State Supreme Court claim the drug sometimes causes memory loss and nerve damage in patients. Lawyers claim Pfizer knew about the problems and suppressed evidence of them. The suits contend Lipitor is defectively designed, inadequately tested, and lacks the proper patient warnings on its dangers. In response, Pfizer called Lipitor, quote, a remarkably safe drug, end quote, and said the claims are a complete fiction. Lipitor is one of the world's most prescribed drugs, Paul, with more than 18 million users in the U.S. alone.
Pfizer shares were among the most active, Susie, and we'll see them in just a moment as we take a look at our stocks in the news tonight. The most active big board issue on 31 million shares, Nortel Networks gaining 2 cents, followed by Lucent Technologies with a 6-cent loss. Then General Electric up 17 cents, Time Warner down 18 cents. Fifth in volume, the iShares Japan down 43 cents. ExxonMobil was up 72 cents despite the drop in oil prices. And there you see Pfizer down a nickel. And just heard two men have sued the company alleging its cholesterol drug Lipitor is causing health problems. Ford Motor was down 13 cents. Corning a 21-cent loss. And then 10th in big board volume, AT&T losing 1 cent. Procter & Gamble, the star of the Dow today, up $1.50. After the close yesterday, the company reaffirmed its fourth quarter sales growth will be in the range of 20 to 24%, and earnings will be at 52 to 54 cents. That apparently put analysts at ease, and hence the nice performance of the stock today. Merck & Company gained a penny. The FDA has approved the company's cervical cancer vaccine called Gardasil. Advanced Micro Devices closed down only 97 cents, but it traded as low as $26.23 this morning after Citigroup cut its 2006 earnings estimate from $1.28 a share down to $1.14, and it also cut the price target on AMD from $42 down to $33. Citigroup cited the company's overly optimistic and aggressive expansion plans. Halliburton closed with a gain of $1.74, but traded as low as $67.93 this morning after the company said it may take on far more debt for acquisitions. Good gainer was Volt Information Sciences, moving up $3.04. Second quarter earnings jumped to 59 cents, up from 29 a year ago, and that was 23 cents better than the street consensus for earnings. Cascade Corp, which makes forklifts and other materials handling equipment, up $2.42. First quarter earnings were lower, 84 cents versus 95 a year ago, but that was 7 cents above the Wall Street consensus. And on top of that, the D.A. Davidson brokerage upgraded Cascade from neutral to buy on a valuation basis. You can see it had a recent slump. Southern Peru Copper off $1.91. Citigroup downgraded this stock from buy to hold due to a strike at a company mine in Mexico. And of course, it didn't help today that copper futures dropped about 6% on the COMEX. Luby's, the cafeteria company, serving up some good third quarter earnings, 25 cents versus 15 last year on a 3.4% rise in sales and a dollar gain in the stock today. Tribune Company gained $1.27. The company will proceed with a $2 billion stock buyback despite opposition from a major shareholder. Google topped the active list with a gain of $6.79. Apple Computer up $2.20. Apple's in a deal with CBS to download to its iPods TV programs like CSI and Survivor. Microsoft 7-cent gain. Intel down 28 cents. Citigroup cut Intel's earnings estimate for this year from 86 cents to 77 cents a share. Cisco, 2-cent drop there. That was fifth in volume. Qualcomm fell $1.03. Broadcom losing 2 cents. Amgen bucked the trend up $1.20. SanDisk losing 14 cents. Level 3 Communications dropped 2 cents. Novella Systems up $1.71. Company gave an upbeat second quarter sales forecast. And then the men's clothier, Joseph A. Blank, tumbling $10.73. First quarter earnings lower, 32 cents versus 38, and that was 14 cents below the Wall Street estimate. And finally, a low-price issue going lower, down $1.11. Finisar, which is in optical subsystems, had a fourth quarter earnings of 1 cent versus a loss of 15 cents last year. But the street was looking for 3 cents in earnings, not 1 cent. Those are the stocks in the news tonight. Susie?
Paul, millions of the nation's baby boomers are starting to reach retirement age, and health experts are expecting to see a sharp increase in the number of boomers diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The tremor-like symptoms are usually diagnosed after a patient reaches age 60. As our Bill of Health series continues, Jeff Yasteen looks at the Parkinson's baby boomer trend and how healthcare professionals are trying to prepare for it.
About 1.5 million people in the U.S. have some form of Parkinson's disease, the vast majority of them over the age of 60. So with millions of baby boomers turning 60 now and in the years to come, Parkinson's represents yet another challenge for the U.S. healthcare system.
Okay, good.
Abe Bertam is a baby boomer, although he has more than a decade to go before he turns 60. He was diagnosed in 1994 with Parkinson's and has had to learn how to manage his life around the disease and its most obvious symptom, tremors that can make even the simplest tasks an ordeal.
Most people are not aware of what Parkinson's is. A lot of people that see me either think I've had a stroke or think I've had an accident, and they're not sure what Parkinson's is. And when I tell them I have Parkinson's, then a lot of them aren't even sure what Parkinson's is.
It's an irony that Abe and the nation's best-known Parkinson's sufferer, actor Michael J. Fox, have what is called young-onset Parkinson's because the vast majority of Parkinson cases are diagnosed after a person turns 60 years of age. That means big challenges ahead as healthcare providers prepare for an aging boomer population.
The healthcare system is not prepared to handle the larger numbers. We're not even prepared to handle the people that are there now because it's a system that's fragmented, and it's a system where people are not well educated. They do not know how to work in teams. There's not good communication between the providers.
Researchers say the team approach among healthcare providers is necessary because the tremors and muscle rigidity most people associate with Parkinson's are actually only one symptom of the disease.
It could be that they're having much more difficulties, say, in the area of memory, or they could be having much more difficulties in the area of their gastrointestinal or urological function, or they may be having significant difficulties in depression, or they can have an anxiety disorder. And all of that can be as part of that package.
The National Parkinson's Foundation says surgery helps in a small percentage of cases, and new drug research is showing promise, but there is no cure. So to manage the disease Parkinson suffers will need more help from healthcare providers in the years to come. For Bill of Health, I'm Jeff Yasteen, Nightly Business Report.
Tomorrow, our Friday Market Monitor guest is Chris Orndorff, head of equity strategy at Payden and Regal.
Here's a look at what's happening tomorrow. May's import prices and April's trade deficit come out. Also tomorrow, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke gives the commencement address at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Tonight's commentator says it's about time we stop and take a look at how we spend our time. Here's Richard Levin, founder of Richard Levin & Associates.
Today, you may have seen someone talking on their cell phone while they were using their PDA or BlackBerry. At the same time, they may have been drinking a cup of coffee and having a meeting with a colleague. None of this would seem unusual if they weren't driving their car at the time. People are using their drive time to jam more activities into their day. They read, make phone calls, check email, and even watch television while they're driving. I've seen people shaving, putting on makeup, and even getting dressed while they were driving. It was only a matter of time before all of this multitasking got its own name. It's called continuous partial attention. The best example is when you're in a meeting and most of the people are surfing the web, sending text messages, or checking voicemail, all while they seem to be paying at least partial attention to the people they're meeting with. Our challenge is to become more aware of time, not as something we spend, but as something we invest in. Rather than kill time, we can nurture it. Rather than waste time, we can conserve it. And rather than live our lives at the speed of time, we can live more in the moment. That's good for business, good for families, and good for each of us. I'm Richard Levin.
And finally tonight, June is traditionally a month for weddings. So if you're planning one and want to mark the day with pictures at a historic location like the Statue of Liberty or Lincoln Memorial, be sure to pack your camera and your cash. The National Park Service has started charging permit fees for groups using commercial photographers at some of the nearly 400 places it oversees. The fees range from $50 to $250 depending on the group size, and officials say they're not trying to spoil your wedding, just trying to find a way to recoup costs associated with commercial filming on federal property. And Paul, they're also complying with the federal law requiring them to do that.
Another not so little incidental expense that makes weddings so expensive these days.
Yes, they are. You're absolutely right. That's Nightly Business Report for Thursday, June 8th. I'm Susie Garib. Good night, everyone, and good night to you, Paul.
Good night, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbye.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by... Buying or selling a home is a big financial decision. A realtor can guide you through the process and help you reach your goals. Is your agent a realtor, a member of the National Association of Realtors?
Franklin Templeton Investments. After 50 years of worldwide investing, we see market opportunities through the eyes of experience. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective.
And by A.G. Edwards.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Inspired by the songs of Pete Seeger and the Weavers, Peter, Paul, and Mary brought energized and political folk music to larger audiences. Celebrate Peter, Paul, and Mary. Carry it on, a musical legacy, tonight at 8:30 on OPB.
For more information about investing, you may order Nightly Business Report's home video, How Wall Street Works, by calling 1-800-535-5864. This program is available in either the VHS or DVD formats.
We are PBS.
Funding for local broadcast of Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following. IMS Capital Management and the IMS family of no-load mutual funds, celebrating 17 years of serving Northwest investors. IMS Capital Management.
This week on Oregon Art Beat, meet Israel Ano, usually in the background, playing drums for a variety of Portland musicians for years. Art Beat gives this talented musician well-deserved minutes in the spotlight. Tom May's been putting folk musicians in the spotlight on his nationwide radio program. We visit this folk troubadour in the studio and on stage at the annual Winter Folk Benefit.
Join us tonight at 8 here on OPB.
Peter, Paul, and Mary Carry It On is a musical legacy following the trio's 40 years together. It features rare performances of their most famous songs, including If I Had a Hammer, Puff the Magic Dragon, and Blowin' in the Wind. Join Peter, Paul, and Mary for Carry It On, a musical legacy.
Join us tonight at 8:30 here on OPB.
Next time on Austin City Limits, alt-country singer-songwriter Ryan Adams.
Wouldn't shy one feeling again.